So I had an idea for making a new setting, like a fantasy role-playing setting, or maybe a setting to make an RPG in, or something like that. And I was working on it, and then I thought, well, maybe I should record this just for fun, or whatever. So here I go. Um, I thought I would start by making the logo, and I just quickly put some cool words together. This could be a placeholder logo. I'm not really sure yet. And I picked some fonts that I liked. The first one being this one here, and the font is called Blood Crow, and it's free to use for personal use, but if this became a successful setting, I would either need to change this logo or subscribe, to the license for this. The other one is called Book Insanity, which I think is pretty common. I'll put a link to both of these below the video. I think that's a pretty common one used in role-playing and stuff. I started to make an actual logo here, and like draw out, some framing and stuff to make it look nice. And then I thought, well, I should probably record this. And then I thought, well, I also should probably plan out the colors for my setting. So I made this quick color palette. There's probably some redundant colors in here, but I'm not too worried about it. But I'm going to try to restrict the entire setting to just these colors. And I noticed there ended up not being much blue because I wanted to sort of go with like a fall theme for this project. So I guess I will probably use like one of these greens for blue, or maybe one of these purples for all of the blue, the generally blue stuff like water and magic and stuff like that in the setting. Or maybe I'll save blue for something special later that would be in the project. So I'm gonna make the logo right off the bat sort of match these colors. So that's my current plan, what I'm working on right now. So to explain how I made these colors, I mean, they were mostly random choices based on just what I would like to, what I imagine the setting would be. But the reason that I made this kind of weird tree is because of my pixel art making background. I would generally start with my darkest colors and work lighter, and sometimes sort of reset those colors back. So like you would find that this dark color here would work as the darkest color for multiple colors. Again, that's a pixel art thing. There's no reason to restrict yourself like this unless you just want to. It's fun to me to do this, even in non-pixel art. Plus, I'm hoping it sort of adds a cohesiveness to the entire project. So if all of the dark shadows and stuff in the setting sort of have the same color, hopefully when you see the art, you'll be like, oh, that's from this Harvest Gothic setting that Hypnosis made up. That's the idea for it. I hope it works that way, feels that way. I'm sure some of these greens are repeated, but I'm not worried about it. When I was building this way, I felt like I hit an end, and then I sort of did it again. And I'm sure there's other colors in here you could probably mix intelligently that would feel nice. I'm not too worried about it. It'll happen organically as I work on the project. So I don't know exactly what my ultimate purpose is with this video. So I'm just gonna try to explain what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and maybe the shortcuts and stuff that I use in Photoshop in case anyone else wants to do it, although it's a great time to stop using Photoshop if you're still using it like I am. Adobe just keeps seeing what they can get away with. But everything that I'm going to do in this will be applicable to other software. So the first thing was I got the logo to where it reads well at a distance. And I'm not like a graphic artist, by the way, so a lot of the stuff I'm doing here is wrong. Uh, Sorry. That's just how I do it. So if you're better with like vector software or something like that, that would be the correct way to do this. This is all raster. I'm just making I'm making the art really big so that I can always resize it down. But ultimately, if something like this took off, I would probably have to rebuild this logo in some vector software for printing reasons and merchandising, stuff like that. But I'm not worried about that. I'm just doing this for fun, and hopefully someone can find it entertaining or helpful for their own projects. So I simply typed out the words uh, with the fonts, the appropriate fonts. Then I drew these lines just using a brush. I used a hard edged brush because You know, the font's hard edged, so I wanted this to be pretty hard edged. And you know, there's not a lot of alpha to it or anything like that. Then I combined them into one layer and filled it with black, so that'll be my base layer I work off of. I'll never edit that layer probably. I'll even name it base. And then I turn all these other ones off. So what I'm going to do first is I want to put a border on this right off the bat. And I'm sort of thinking, because of the whole harvest theme and the fall theme, of making this sort of orange or red. So what I would do is I'll hold control and click on the base, which selects everything on that layer. So I clicked on the base layer while holding control. And then you can go to like select, modify, and expand, but sometimes to me it feels like when you do that you sort of get these weird rounded edges, and I found that if you go to modify, go to select and then inverse, that selects all of this white area. It selects the opposite of what you had selected all along. Then go to modify, contract instead. I feel like you get sort of a better, more accurate edge. Like this isn't softer, this is softer. I'm not sure why that is, but the important thing here to remember is you have to go to select and inverse again. So like if I filled right now, I made a new layer over here, by the way, right above base. So if I filled right now, edit, fill, it actually filled the outside area. So you want to do inverse again, and then let's see, what color do we want to use for this? Let's try this color here. And now if I hit fill, it should fill the appropriate area. And then if I want that to be a border, I can select, deselect, then hold control, click the base layer again. And if you remember, that's our silhouette basically. Go back to the new layer, hit delete, it cuts it out, and now I sort of have this nice little border that already looks more interesting, I think. Okay, so now we have a border and we have an interior that are separated. Let's see, I'm going to name this one border, this layer here in the lower right. So now let's see, what should we do? I mean, you can really kind of just play with it, like you don't have to follow what I'm doing exactly. And I'm sort of just exploring the idea. Like, I can make a drop shadow really quickly if I duplicated the base layer and named it shadow, and even just drag it down a tiny bit like that. Set the opacity in the lower right to 75, or maybe even, let's do like 60, and then blur it a tiny bit. We're just blurring this layer here, the shadow layer. Let's see, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. So already we have kind of a drop shadow, which sort of makes something feel more like a cover or a logo to something. I'm going to control select the base. I'm going to make a new layer. We'll just call it color for now. Let's see, I'm going to hit Control H to hide the animated selection so it's not distracting me. And then I'm on this new layer, color, which is below border, above base. And I'm going to try some colors to see what looks good for. So I select a color over here, and I'm going to go to fill, see what looks good for this logo. I think I would like to try, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I think I would like to try to make the border a lighter color, but lots of times that doesn't work out. Let's see, let's try this here. Fill. Like that already looks better. The darker border just so frequently looks better. Let's try something really dark for the interior and see how that looks. I think that's kind of cool. I'm gonna make a background layer and see how it feels on different colors. Like, that's not terrible. Okay. A gradient inside would probably make this feel better. So I'm going to select the base, work on the color layer again, and let's try Control H to hide the animated selection. Let's try a gradient. So if you go to the gradient tool here, it gives you a lot of different selections here, and you want to make sure to probably enable the alpha layer. Like this one does 2 colors, this one does a color and an alpha. I almost exclusively use the second one there. These squares in the upper left here show you that it's just going to apply one color, and that color is going to fade out. It's a fantastic tool I use all the time. And there's different shapes, but we're using the straight line shape. So it looks like, when you do a gradient, it looks like this. But because of that alpha, if we have a different background color, and we do the gradient now, it leaves the background color. So that's really, in my opinion, the best way to use this tool. So I have my color layer selected, and let's try making a lighter fall color come up from the base. Let's see how that feels. Yeah, that's not too bad. Although that color ended up being lighter than the border, I think, so I may need to make the border brighter. Even so. So let's see. I'm going to go to Image, Color Adjustment, Brightness Contrast, and bump that up, the brightness, and see how that feels. Certainly feels kind of like Halloween, which is definitely something I want to do intentionally for this setting. Let's see, about maybe one more outer layer of about 4 pixels would feel good. So I'm going to select, this is super helpful. I'm going to select the base layer, so I'm going to hold Control, click the base layer. You see I got it selected. Now I'm going to hold Control and Shift and select the border layer also. And that should select everything except the shadow that we've been working on. So I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier, select Inverse, select Modify, Contract. I did 4 before, let's do 3 this time. Then select Inverse again. And I'm going to make a new layer between between color and base. I'm going to call it Outer Border. And let's make that black. I bet this will really make it pop and feel better. Certainly helps it read better. Yeah, don't hate that. I think maybe I need to make it a little bigger though, so I'm going to select Outer Border. Select Inverse, select Modify, not Expand, select Modify, Contract. I'm going to do 2 more pixels. Then select Inverse and fill with black. Yeah, that feels more solid to me. I don't feel like I'm quite there yet with this logo, but I do like the direction it's going. I think this black is a little too much. So I'm going to select color base on the color layer, hide the selection, and see if maybe I can make that a bit more red without breaking out of the confines of my pre-selected colors. So let's see here. I think I'm doing the gradient again. Maybe, let's see, undo. Maybe just a tiny bit of more red at the top. Yeah, maybe like that. And then I think I want this bottom part to also be in that same red, so I'm going to just select a hard pencil and fill in that. Yeah, I think that feels a little better. I'm going to deselect the bottom so it doesn't get messed up. Go in here, deselect this line as well, using the lasso tool and the Alt key to deselect. And then see if maybe I can brighten this up. Oh, something I didn't mention that I was doing is when I'm doing the gradient, you know, it kind of can go any direction. Like it could go like that. I'm holding shift to lock it and up and down, or you can lock it left and right, but I'm doing up and down to just sort of make sure it's in the right spot, the right direction, and that it's perfect evenly across. It's too bright, I think. But sometimes when it's too bright, when you're using gradients like this, like if I drag it right here and it seems too bright, I can actually start it outside and then drag it in where it just partially lightens then. So that just sort of brought it up slightly. I think I'm going to, let's see, I think this needs to be a little bolder. So I'm going to adjust the contrast a tiny bit. So select, deselect so that everything is affected by this. I'm on the color layer. Let's see, brightness, contrast. Okay, and that light border that we did, I want that to be even a little brighter. Let's see, maybe I don't want it all to be brighter, just some of it, because it looks pretty good down here. It's at the bottom of these letters that I'm not happy with it. So I'm going to select, let's see, yeah, I'm going to select just the top, and then hold Control and hit border. Okay, that selected everything, so I'll have to go in and manually deselect like I did before. So I'm going to use the lasso, manually deselect the bottom part here. Okay, so I've just got that border selected. And I'm just going to pick a color. I'm going to pick that color and then I'm going to just make it a little brighter. Control H. And I'm going to use the gradient with that brighter color. And sort of just brighten up the bottom of that top word. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. I wonder if some sort of shine effect would work nicely on this bottom word, or if I should just leave it a solid color like that on the dark fantasy setting part. Let's see. I'm just gonna play around a little bit here and just see how it feels. Like, oh, that's no good. Ignore that. No, I don't like that. There's also, when you're using gradient, this fourth one right here is kind of a neat one as well because it creates a gradient line that goes both directions. So say that I wanted to put like a shine in the middle of this word, I could use it to quickly do like that, and you can see it fades out going up and down. And sometimes I like to use that when I'm messing around with trying to make a logo interesting. Again, I'm probably spending way too much time on something that I'm just doing for fun here, and will probably change later. I don't know though, I don't hate that. Let's see, maybe something darker at the base. Okay. So I think this is good enough for now. The next part will be pretty fun, and I'm probably a little crazy to some of you, but I'm going to just put in some textures. There's a weird spot there I need to fix. Let's see if I can fix that. I'm going to put in some textures that will just sort of hopefully breathe a little life into this, and then I'll go in and manually paint a few spots to sort of make it not feel like it was procedurally generated in any way. So I think I also want to make sure these two lines aren't matching in color. I'm not sure when I messed that up, but I'm just going to fill this bottom one so that it matches the top one. I think that'll just feel better. Okay, so I've got some old textures. This texture I got like in the early 2000s. I don't actually remember where I got it, but it was a free use source. This is a photo of a rock that I don't know when I took it, but I take a lot of pictures of rocks and mix it in. These two are just some textures I made when I was in college, so it would have been like 2002. I made these textures in my sink in a crappy apartment, and they've been really good to me. I've used them in so many projects over the years of just ink. It's just like I had some leftover ink, so I rubbed it on some typing paper and made these textures. And so I'm going to try to see if I can incorporate some of this stuff into this just real quickly to make it feel good. I think the first thing I want to do is use a stone texture. So I'm going to copy it over. I'm going to select the base. I'm going to select all of it. So I'm going to hold Shift and Control and select all of it here. Except the shadow. I'm not going to select the shadow. But I'm going to do all the borders. I'm going to do the base, everything. Make a new layer. Edit. Paste special. Paste into. And that just automatically masks it for you. And I'm going to resize it. I'm making it bigger. You generally shouldn't do that, but it'll be okay in this case. And this is a really fun part for me because I just kind of go through the random layer settings here and just see what happens, you know. Like that kind of looks cool. That's multiply, so that's definitely going to darken the layer. Let's put that at like 50%, and let's bring the copper one over. The copper is usually a pretty good one, although sometimes I have to grayscale it because that orange that it has is really dominating lots of times when I do these tests. Edit, paste into. It's definitely going to be smaller as well, but it'll be okay for this. Sometimes I'll make a second window and zoom out so that I can kind of get an idea of how it's going to look at a distance as well when I'm doing tests like this. Don't hate that, but again, it's so red. So I'm going to convert. I've got that red copper texture selected. I'm going to kind of turn the color down on that. So if we go to hue, this bottom saturation, that's one you want, the middle one. Turn that down, and that'll kind of grayscale that and let my original colors through better. So let's put this at 50%. Put this at 50%. How does that look? Let's turn this up to 70%. And then let's grab this texture, copy, paste into. This texture is really good because it makes a lot of things look like they're hand painted. This has been my most loyal texture. Almost every game I've worked on has this texture somewhere in it in some way or another, at least in the concept art phase. I think this will work. This is a little washed out right here on this line here, so I might try to figure something out. This little color spot right through there looks a little washed out to me, right in this area. So let me see if I select the base, zoom in, make a new layer, do gradient tool, do the center one, and then choose a color to put in there. I bet I can figure something out to make that feel better. Like that. Deselect, and then I'm just going to go through these and see if anything makes that, like that already feels better to me right there. I don't like this right here. I saw a bad spot there somewhere. Where was it at? Yeah, there. Some color is bleeding over into the black layer, so I'm going to select. I'm going to select the base, the color, the border, which is the interior border, and then I'm going to select inverse. So now I've got this white area selected, and I've got this black area selected here. And I'm going to go through these textures and just delete them. So now I went through each layer. So now the texture is 100% just inside this colored area. Of course, now I can't move those textures around anymore, but I like where they're at. The next step will be it'll be tedious, but also fun, and I'm just going to go through these letters and do little handcrafted spots here and there, and I think that'll make it feel really nice. So I don't have any professional recording equipment, so you might be picking up my air conditioner and stuff. Sorry about that. That's just what I've got. So the next part of this is me painting all the little tiny details around the letters. It's going to be time consuming, so I'm just going to show like 1 or 2 letters, and then I'm going to do them all and skip. I'm probably not going to spend as much time on this as I usually would, because I might change the name of this project. I'm surely going to change this logo, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But I'm going to do a little bit just so you can sort of see what my plan is and how I manually work with the textures that I pasted in previously. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm just going to use a simple brush. You can see it over here. I don't know how to make my camera zoom in, but it's just a simple round, fairly hard-edged brush. It does have pressure sensitivity on, and I'm just going to use it to sort of explore the textures that it sort of naturally just happens. So like you can see there's a little bit of a dark line here, dark line here. I'm going to sort of build those in so that they feel like they were intentional, or that they're from actual wear and tear. And in some cases, like there's a little pit here, I'll sort of just put like a highlight on the bottom edge of those to sort of make them feel like they're really part of the, that they're not just pasted in textures, like they really are. And I will do the same with the dark as well. So like I might actually bring this text, this line out to the edge, like it's an actual crack, or make some of these darker, paint in a little bit of manual texturing, sort of make it look like it's well, to put the the human touch into it. And while I'm doing this, I'm using Alt to change the color that I've selected. That's why you're not seeing me go to a palette. I already have all my colors in this image that I want to have. So whenever I want to do a highlight, I'll just go to one of these edges and grab the orange and sort of work it in a little bit, massage that in a little there. And then when I want a dark color, I'll find a spot that has a dark color like right here, and I'll grab it, Alt, click, and then I'll let off Alt, and I can just keep going. It's literally one button that I use on the keyboard. I've been doing this for so many years that I actually have a little bit of carpal in my thumb from hitting Alt and space. I hit space to move, and then Alt. I'm left-handed, by the way, so this probably isn't helpful to somebody that's right-handed, but my thumb rests on space, and I click that so I can drag around, and then I hit Alt to sample colors. Those are the two main buttons that I use while quickly drawing like this. I'm not sure, I don't like these spots that I'm seeing here, which just sort of happened because of the base font. So I'm probably going to go ahead and just paint over a lot of those. Some of them, like this one's not too bad, but some feel a little bit like they're out of place. So I'll just fix those case by case and see. And also while I'm doing this, I have another window over here, so I can watch on the right hand side and sort of see the changes I'm making and how I feel about them. Alright, I'm going to just kind of do this on my own from now. It's going to take a while. There's no reason to record an hour, 2 hours of me goofing around with these fonts, but that's going to be my plan for this, and I will post when I'm done the rest of it at the end of the video. Okay, I went in and added lots of details like I showed previously. Nothing, I didn't get crazy with it, just to sort of make the whole thing feel better. I put some little shines here, some little scratches here. Covered up a few of the spots I didn't like. Put some highlights just in random spots. Adjusted the color a tiny bit. I made the bottom just have a little bit of green in it because I felt like it was getting a little too red, and our color palette for the project, it's got a little green in it, a lot of red. I think it maybe feels a little more accurate. I think also I want to add a little bit of depth to sort of make the letters look a little more 3D. And the easiest way to do that would be to go to one of the previous layers. Let me find it here. Outer border is the one that we want to do. And what I like to do is simply just, this is probably the worst way to do this, but I just duplicate it and drag the duplications down to the lower right or lower left or something. And that just very quickly adds some depth to it. I think it makes it feel a little bit more like a, sorry about that, a little more like a book cover logo, which was sort of the goal here for me. So I think I'm just going to roll with this for now, and we will see if we want to change something down the road. For presentation reasons, I thought it might be nice to have a quick and dirty little border filigree or something for making buttons, stuff like that, buttons and the logos and stuff like that for this project. So I'm just going to do something really simple. I think I'm going to just quickly draw. I chose this color from our palette, so it's going to be cohesive to the project. I think I'll just do like this. Something here to sort of make it look organic. Let's see, draw a little shape here. Maybe something here. This will make sense. You'll immediately see what I'm doing with it. So maybe like something that looks like berries or something. It would sort of, I'm going for like a kind of a fall harvest sort of theme with this project. So I want to try to put shapes and stuff into the project that look like, plants and gourds, pumpkins, stuff like that. Maybe something like this. Let's see, go down a little further here. Alright, I'm going to use the polygon selection tool. I'm going to grab at this corner and drag out. I'm going to hold shift so I get a good 45-degree angle. And cut that. Then I'm going to duplicate the layer, hold shift and alt and shift, and drag. That quickly duplicates it. And then I just want to try to rotate this layer to make up this corner a little here. Let's see, I'll get it here in a minute. There we go. Let's see if this works. And then I'm going to weld those two together with Control E. I selected both layers, hit Control E, and that made it one layer. Okay, I want to pick a brighter color. I think I'm using this one here, so let's see, maybe let's try this color here. And I'm going to just kind of imagine that there's a light source above this, so I'm just going to put a little bit of depth on this, like so. As if the light's coming from above. Alright, let's see how that looks if I zoom out. It looks pretty nice, I think. It looks good enough. And so I'm going to duplicate that. Flip it like so. Weld those together. Duplicate those. Rotate 180. Holding shift, I'm dragging it down. Put it at the bottom. Weld those together. Now I have some nice frames. And these frames are pretty simple, so I would be able to easily, resize them or use them for something smaller or bigger even.